If your goal is to move to Japan in 2025 and you don't know much about the visa situation around here, this video is for you. I'll go over the most common visas people actually use to come to the country and which one would suit you best. Just as a disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not an immigration officer, so you should always double check everything I say and do your own research. This is just stuff that I have researched myself and stuff I've heard from my own experience and from what I've heard from other friends and people I've met. Now, starting off with the working holiday visa, which is basically, as it's in the name, a working holiday. Now, usually these visas only last 1 to 2 years, and they're also limited to certain nationalities, and as well, it's only eligible for certain age groups. Most popularly though, that would be 18 to 30, but it also can be 18 to 25 or 26. With this visa, you're allowed to work up to 28 hours per week, and there are limitations to what industry you can work in. More specifically, you're not allowed to work mostly in any adult-only service industry, such as clubs, bars, hostess clubs, and so on. As well, again, on the nationalities, each country is only allowed to have a set amount of visas issued per year. I'll put the numbers up here. There are no fees to this visa, so keep that in mind as well. Next up is a student visa. This is probably the one I've seen the most amount of people use to come here, and they usually get it by enrolling into a Japanese language school. As well, you can also get it by just trying to get a degree of sorts, such as a bachelor's or master's degree. In other words, just enrolling in a university. With this visa, there's no specific expiry date usually. It usually just depends on how long your course is and how long you want to be enrolled in learning Japanese, for example. After that, you can also transition into a working visa, although you still need to find a company to sponsor you. Keep in mind, unlike the working holiday visa, this one actually has a fee to it. So you'll have to pay tuition, and usually that tuition also includes fees. Although the good part about this is, unlike the working holiday visa, there is no restrictions to nationality. The visa details specifically are mostly tied towards which school and what type of school you go to. And on this one, depending on the immigration procedure you go through and on the school you enroll with, you might be allowed as well to work 28 hours per week. If you want to stay in Japan long term, this might be a good route for you, so you learn the language, and as well, you don't have to leave the country at the end of your visa, and you can just simply remain in the country then and switch your visas. Moving on now to the most obvious type of visa, a working visa, which basically means you need a company to sponsor you. Now, a very common route for people to do this is through teaching English in Japan. Now, I myself, I'm not an English teacher, but I've met a fair amount of people who are, and I've seen very much mixed opinions online regarding becoming one, so you should really look into it more by yourself. But I do want to emphasize one question you should ask yourself, which is, do you want to give up your current career or be content pursuing a career then in English teaching or in teaching in general? There is a very high demand in Japan though for English teachers, so if you go on websites such as LinkedIn, Indeed, or Gaijinpot, you will see many different companies looking for English teachers, either part-time or full-time, and they usually mention in their listings if they're willing to sponsor your visa for you. Keep in mind though that if you get a job as an English teacher, you will be bound to only being able to teach English. So if you wanted to have a side job in another industry, you wouldn't be allowed to. But as well, you can also try and find a job in your actual career field and your career path, and you can again do that through standard websites like LinkedIn, Indeed, and Gaijinpot. And as well, there's also companies which specialize in finding foreigner-friendly jobs, so you can also look into that. Although keep in mind that the jobs you can get whilst knowing Japanese and not knowing Japanese are very different. Now, for most jobs that require Japanese, they ask for an N1 or an N2 level, and I'll put a graph here that translates into the common European framework, so you can see what it would be if you spoke any European language such as English, and this would allow you to have way more job opportunities based on you speaking English and Japanese, and even more languages if you speak any. As well, I do want to mention that there's something called the Boston Career Forum, which happens every year, and it happens in Boston in the United States, where basically it helps people find jobs in Japan if they speak both Japanese and English. Now, if you go there, you should at least have an N3 or N4 level of Japanese, and then you could speak and do interviews on the spot with Japanese companies to try and find a job in Japan. And also for this one, keep in mind, the length of your visa will be dictated from your contract usually that you have with the company, and obviously you should be able to renew it if the company wants to keep you on. The last visa type I want to mention is a self-sponsored route, which is mostly for copywriters and software engineers or journalists. People basically have multiple clients. You still need to get a client in Japan to sign a contract with you, and you use that part of your visa application. And this basically shows that you need to be in Japan. You do have to pay for the visa fees yourself throughout this, and I would suggest getting a lawyer as well, as this can be quite complicated. But if this might make sense for you, please look further into it. There's also usually a minimum payment amount that you need to receive every month from your client, as well as usually some years of experience and a degree of sorts, but this varies between each application that gets made. Anyways, this is everything from me. Thanks again for watching, and I hope I helped you in some way. If you have any questions, leave a comment and follow for more Japan content.